ठीक है, ओके।
Good afternoon all. I, architect Sujata Godbole, on behalf of Women's Education Society, Srimati Manoramabai Mundle College of Architecture, Nagpur, better known as LED Architecture, I welcome you all to this webinar on architecture as a career option. Hope you all are doing well at your home. With number of options in front of you, it is exceedingly difficult to choose career that is right for you. Before you can choose the right career, you must learn about yourself, your values, interests, soft skills, and aptitudes in combination with your personality. As rightly said by our Honorable President, late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, all of us do not have equal talent, but all of us have an equal opportunity to develop our talents. Today, we are here to give insights and information about architecture as a career option. For this, we have two eminent personalities as our panelists. Rita Agrawal and Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev. This discussion will be followed by presentation by my colleague Dr. Sampata Peshwe. Dr. Nita Lambe will give information about the NATA and entrance examination, and this will be followed with a question and answer session by Dr. Madhura Rathod. Let me introduce our speakers for the today's program. Our first speaker is Ms. Rita Agrawal. Rita Agrawal madam is a gold medalist in psychology at her master's and bachelor's. Rita madam brings 38 years of accomplished experience in the field of psychology and has established herself as the leading pioneer of psychological counseling in Central India from 1990. Her skills and contribution have been recognized by her nomination as the chapter champion of the TIE Global Project Air SV1 and co-director of Air SV2 by United States of America. Rita Madam is a human resource trainer too and conducts programs on behavioral subjects for the leading corporates, colleges, and schools on a regular basis, in addition to dealing with individual issues at her clinic, Manodaya. She is a social entrepreneur and has conducted many mental health awareness projects as well as vocational skills training program for youth. She is a regular columnist to a leading newspaper, the Hitwada, on a weekly and fortnightly basis and has delivered talks at forums including the prestigious TEDx at the BITS Pilani. She is on the advisory board of schools and colleges in Nagpur and Hyderabad. She is a life member of Indian Association of Clinical Psychologists and Indian Psychiatric Association. As a Rotarian, she is a charter member and program director on the board of Rotary Action Group on Mental Health Initiatives, which is a global body of the Rotary Foundation of USA. She is a charter member and ex-governing council member of the Indus Entrepreneurs, that is the TIE Nagpur. The second speaker is Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, Principal Srimati Manoramabai Mundle College of Architecture. She is also the president of Maharashtra Association Schools of Architecture. Dr. Ujjwala madam is an architect and urban planner. She graduated from the VRC Vishveshwarya Regional College of Engineering Nagpur in 1984. Now it is VNIT. She is in teaching architecture since her graduation, completed MTech and PhD from VNIT in 1989 and 2006 respectively. Deeply involved in exploring methods and means of teaching architecture, Her topic for PhD was the impact of social change on architecture education of India. Her experiences with her students are documented in Marathi book Scale आणि T-Scale, published by Sahitya Prasar Kendra in 2013. Experiments in experiential learning motivated her to document student study tour work at Bhutan and Harsil Valley. She is a co-author of the two books Anubhuti 1 and Anubhuti 2, published by in-house publication cell of the college, that is the Mimamsa. 2 years postgraduate course, EMARJ, in architecture education was designed and initiated by her for RTM Nagpur University in 2007. This was the first of its kind in entire India. She has been actively involved in research in the field of architecture. PhD cell was established in her college in 2012. 5 scholars have been awarded PhD under her guidance. 3 have been submitted their PhD and 5 scholars are pursuing PhD at present under her guidance. She is a member of Research Reviewing Committee, that is the RRC of Pune University. She has conducted several TTP teachers training programs for Council of Architecture through its academic body, National Institute of Advanced Studies Architecture, that is the NIASA initially, and now it is called as the TRCCOA. She has published various papers in international and national journals. Dr. Ujjwala ma'am's love for heritage structure is manifested through various initiatives taken by her for conserving heritage structure and creating awareness and love for heritage structures amongst her students. She is a member of Heritage Conservation Committee of Nagpur Municipal Corporation since 2010. Her college is the nodal center for documenting heritage structure for Nagpur. Dr. Ujjwala ma'am has undertaken professional projects as architects and interior designer for government and a private client. Design and consultancy cell were established at the college with her initiative. This has undertaken various prestigious architectural consultancy projects. She is also the president of Vidarbha Prant Bharatiya Shikshan Mandal, an organization which works for the cause of betterment of education in India. Now I call upon Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev Madam to address the audience. Madam, you can start. Madam, you are muted.
Can you unmute yourself, please, ma'am?
Please unmute.
Madam, can you please unmute yourself?
That. Hello. Good afternoon, one and all. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and most precious audience of today, my dear students who aspire to become architects in near future. I welcome you all to this webinar, which has been hosted by Srimati Manoramabai Mundle College of Architecture, and the sheer objective of conducting this webinar is to make all of you aware about the goodness and the better things of the profession, as well as we also want you all to know how to join this profession, how to be a part of our profession. According to me, this is one of the most beautiful professions I have ever encountered. And since past, as told by Sujata madam, for past so many years, I have been involved, deeply involved in this profession. And I feel that everything good about all other professions happens in architecture. Especially, we can say that the personality which is honed in architecture education or in architecture is that of a technical person as well as a creative person, is the best and the judicious combination of creativity and technology. Initially, in olden days, it was called as a combination of science and arts. But now I feel it has got creativity, and technology has got many more angles to it. That's why I have replaced these two words of science and art with the technology and creativity. According to me, every person, every individual, every single human being, and all of you young boys and girls who are listening to this webinar today or are participating in this webinar today would know that all of you are the most creative persons in this earth. You are born creative. In architecture colleges, we hone your creativity. We make you understand that you are one of the most creative persons of this earth. And this confidence, once you get, that is what we want through architecture education. And that is what an architect actually is. And the second part of the education, that is the second part of architect, that is technological part. It's very easy to be transmitted. We can actually teach what technology is. And even if we don't teach you, your generation is so smart, you would understand the technology. There is something which an architect dreams about, and then it gets manifested on the earth. That is, the architect sits and dreams on his drawing board about the building which the users would like to use, and then it has to be built. So building the technology actually requires the building it requires a technology. So construction technology, then the services which are required, all that is also a part of architecture education. But what I have realized in all these years, that this is the only profession which gives you or allows you and actually pays you to dream. Who else would give you that opportunity to dream and get paid for that dreaming? And once you dream about something and for your users, then you have to understand how to get it erected. And that is what all about this education is. But it's very, very different from the way you have learned all these years. I know you are all, most of you are in 10th or 11th or 12th standard, and we know the plight of our 11th, 12th standard students. They run from one tuition class to another tuition class, they write things and they do one mathematics problem for so many times, and then they by heart things and then actually appear for examinations to get highest marks. Fortunately enough, we don't need very large percentage to get into architecture. In this webinar, Neeta Lambe madam will talk to you about the methods and the ways in which you can get into this profession. She will talk to you about NATA, that is National Aptitude Test of Architecture, and the percentages required to get into it. Marks, percentages, all these really do not matter in life in the long run. It is actually what you are as a person and what you think as a person and how you perform as an individual, how you perform as a human being, and how sensitive are you towards your surroundings, how sensitive are you towards your neighborhood, to your family, to your community, to your nation, to your mother earth, to the entire world. All these things are very, very important, and this is what we try to inculcate in our students while teaching architecture. Actually, to be very frank, architecture really cannot be taught. Architecture has to be learned. It need not be taught at all. It has actually to be learned. And we in the schools of architecture, we call it schools. I know you would be saying that you want to leave the school and go, and you must be eager to enter the colleges. And it really is a college. It's a school, is a school of thought. That's why there's a trend that we call architecture colleges as schools of architecture. Here, we try to inculcate your thought processes. We try to develop your thought processes. And this is what we would like to share with you, how different it is. The way you have learned all these years is a convergent way of learning, that you focus on one thing, but the one complete year of architecture, that is the first year of architecture, we focus on making you divergent thinkers. So divergent thinkers is something which is, you think at a time the alternatives for a single solution. And that is what is creativity according to me. Creativity is something where you don't follow the rut. You don't follow the logical solution which 99.9% of people are following. You get the ability to think differently, to imagine differently, to look at the same perspective, same problem in a exactly in the opposite direction. The way the world is looking, you won't look at it that way. And that helps you to change your perspective, to look at your life differently, to live differently. That's why in architecture schools, you will find that the only key to learn architecture is to be happy, to enjoy yourself. So every submission, if without load, submission is the word which is very well known in the schools of architecture. Every now and then you have to keep on submitting something to your teachers or to your mentors. But there's a free environment. And when you learn this submission and learn to enjoy this submission without taking any load, you are actually learning architecture. We are very happy, and always we feel like saying a statement that architecture cannot be learned only in four walls. It has to be learned with nature. It has to be learned in the surrounding. And this is what we try to teach you in architecture schools. And once you get the degree of architecture, that you get through some university which the institution where you are taking this is. Now this degree helps you take a license from the apex body, that is Council of Architecture. And this license helps you to call yourself an architect. It's not the degree that makes you to call yourself a degree. This is a title of architect, is a title that you get. And this license, when you get, this license helps you to recently there is a essay competition floated by Council of Architecture for young architects, which is on what is the role of architect in building the nation. When we build a building, we are actually contributing towards the building a nation. A good building and a bad building can make lots of difference to the users. So architect actually talks about, thinks about, imagines about how these buildings are going to be used by people. So how are they going to move inside the building? How are these spaces going to affect the users? Because good building will affect positively, and the bad building, badly designed building will have a bad impact on the users. So the wellness of the society and not so wellness of the society all depends on the buildings and the infrastructure which the users are using. So this is what the architect actually does. Once you get a degree of architecture and you have become an architect, you can also have an option of doing your post-graduation. Lots of avenues of post-graduation are available. In and around Nagpur itself, we have got architecture education as a post-graduation. Now, by doing this, you can also become a teacher of architecture and be sensitive towards your students. Merely taking a degree of architecture does not mean you can become a good teacher. That's what, and this was the unique course started by Srimati Manorama Bai Mundle College of Architecture in 2007. Second course is about urban design, urban spaces, unbuilt environment, how to design those and how to work on this. That's a second. then masters in design, masters in environment, masters in conservation, masters in urban planning, all these are, and many more are there. You can find this on the website of the Council of Architecture, and you will get the entire list of post-graduation. Some are here in Nagpur, some are in Maharashtra, some are in India, and some you can pursue outside India also. But it's not that the post-graduation is the only option for further studies. You can diversify, because you are going to become a creative person, and this creativity can be shown by you from the example of the profession. You can follow the profession of photography, you can go into the profession of advertisement, you can go into the profession of filmmaking, and so many other diversified. I can go on and on, but I think the webinar is all about other things also which you have to take up. So this is what I thought I can share with you, but I'm there here. If anybody has any further question, I can answer those later on at the end of the webinar, and then we can solve your problems. And even beyond that, even if within 1 hour you are not able to get answers, we will be there, and our numbers are there on website. You can ask your questions, any doubts which you have, to join this college, the family of architecture, where there is only and only enjoyment, no emergencies, and no way in which you have to rush at the midnight to go to the slab. Slabs are only slabs is the emergency, which are cast by planning, well planned activities of architects are always there. So this is something which I thought I should share with you, and my best wishes are always with you. And I hand over the stage to Sujata madam to take it further, and let us go ahead, and let's enjoy this 1 hour which we have with us. Thank you so much.
Sujata ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
Please unmute yourself.
Sorry. Thank you, Madam Chakradev madam, for sharing your views. Now I request Rita madam to kindly address the audience.
So, good evening to all of you, and a very warm welcome to the youngsters who would have joined this webinar. Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev is a very old friend of mine, a fantastic lady with great accomplishments, and I have known her now for several years, and I have known her extreme dedication to the cause of what she is promoting. Thank you so much, ma'am, thank you so much, Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, for inviting me. Am I audible? Can people hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Okay, is it
Yes,
clear
ma'am.
and is it clear and loud?
It's
All right.
absolutely clear. Yeah. Welcome. Welcome
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you so much. I also thank Dr. Sujata Godbole, Dr. Sampada, and the other dignitaries on the dais of Manorama Bai Mundle College of Architecture, popularly known as the LAD College. So we fondly call all the departments and all the institutes of LAD as LAD College, because that's one of the leading institutes in the field of women's education. And I've been associated with LAD now for several years on the board in some way or the other. And I'm a great fan of all of you. I just love all the women in LAD College who are extremely dedicated. They work like a regiment, and they work absolutely devoted to the cause of women's education. So thank you for inviting me once again, and my very warm welcome to the youngsters who are trying to search for a good career line for them to make a good future. So here's my slide, and I'm going to be brief because there are other dignitaries who have lots to share with you. So I am an architect. Next picture, please. Is there a way I can move the slides myself? Is there a way I can move it myself?
Yes.
No.
You are
No,
not
ma'am.
able to move. Okay, yeah.
Ma'am, I'll change for you.
Okay, please change them. So let me show you a picture. I'm sure all of you know what this stands for. These are the 7 wonders of the world, and you would recognize, of course, our very dear to our heart monument, the Taj Mahal, which is from our own country, India.
Madam,
And
to download, the next slide is not being seen, is it? Hello?
can you see the 7 wonders of the world?
I cannot see, but I don't know about others. But
Yes, yes, we can see, madam.
okay.
Yes, madam, we can
Okay,
see.
Good.
So here are the 7 wonders of the world. The Taj Mahal, the Great Wall of China, Christ the Redeemer from Rio de Janeiro, the pyramids, the Gaza pyramids of Egypt, Machu Picchu and stuff like that. So what does it, why am I showing you this picture, children? What I'm trying to say is there's these great, fantastic monuments, which are known as the 7 wonders of the world, were created in the mind of a man or a woman. Man means mankind. I don't mean man. There's no gender bias here. So let's say person kind, a human being. So these wonders of the world were first created in the mind of a human being. And who is that human being? Most necessarily, he's an architect. So what does an architect do? He first thinks of an idea. An idea gets generated in his mind, and then he broods over that idea, he dreams over that idea, sleeps over that idea, and then transfers that idea slowly, step by step, onto his table, onto a piece of paper, where he then meticulously draws those designs and completes the picture with perfection. And then after that picture is created on his drawing board, it gets created into a monument with bricks and mortar and cement and everything else. Next slide, please. So this is the marvel of the mind of an architect who has the capacity to create fantastic, beautiful monuments. And when you see something great and when you see a good building as you pass by in your own city, and if you like that place, does a thought cross to your mind? My God, such a beautiful building. Who built it? You might also ask another question, who owns it? But the owner is not so important as who built it. And you would also like to build something like that, which would last forever and people would remember you through that building. But let's come to the aptitude. I'm a psychologist. I practice as a psychologist and I do a lot of career counseling for children to help them know what they want to do, what would make them happy, and where do their aptitude lie. So making a career definitely requires an aptitude. Now, these are the 4 aptitudes I've mentioned, which would be required if you are thinking of architecture as a career. One is spatial ability. Spatial ability is relating, the word spatial relates to the word space. So perceiving spatial patterns accurately, understanding orientation of figures when their position in space is altered. But let me give you a simpler understanding. If I give you 10 acres of land, if I give you 100 acres of land, or let me give you 1 acre of land, or let me just give you 10,000 square foot in a small piece of land. And I say, okay, convert this into something, make a nice building here. If I give you an acre, I would say make a school here or make a college here. And if I give you a smaller plot, I might say, okay, build a home for me, a residence, a beautiful residence for me, which suits me. So how you are going to perceive that space with your creative imagination and how you are going to convert that space into a monument is what spatial ability is all about. So you must have, we test this ability through a very simple test. It doesn't take more than half an hour. Then the other ability is closure ability, is perceptual ability to complete figures when parts of it are missing. We call it completing the gestalt. So if I give you an ambiguous picture, or I give you a figure which is not a complete figure, but has parts of the figure missing, and I say now use your imagination to complete it and see what you can see. So perceive, like when children look at the sky and you see clouds, and you see clouds which are floating, or you see various types of images. So we say, imagine what you can see in the clouds. So we complete an image. So there would be no elephant there, but I'll see an elephant. There would be no aeroplane there, but I'll see a plane. So I might perceive certain things in an incomplete picture, which is called ambiguous. So closure ability, it's an important artistic ability, which you must have. Psychomotor ability is precise movements of eye-hand coordination under speeded conditions, fine muscle dexterity. Some people think that, oh, you need to have a very good drawing sense of drawing. That's not true. You are not going to be a fine artist, you're not going to be a painter, or you're not going to do drawing. But what you need is fine motor movement. So, for example, if you can pick up the pen and draw a very straight line, or you can do a perfectly round circle with a steady hand. So what we are looking for is not your ability to draw, but what we are looking for is a steady hand and a steady eye-hand coordination under speeded conditions. That if I ask you to do something in a speeded way, you will not mess it up. So you will be neat and clean with your eye-hand movements. That is known as the psychomotor ability. With this also we test. And the last is the numerical ability, which is the arithmetical operations. It's not maths and it's not anything else. It's not the maths which you use in the science, but it's a numerical ability. But the teachers will correct me if I'm saying something not right, because you might have taken physics, science, physics, chemistry and mathematics till 12th standard, but architecture does not require physics and chemistry beyond that. It's not like engineering. So a fair amount of numerical ability is good enough for you. Next slide, please. So remember, and of course, if you know English language, the better for you. So spatial ability, closure ability, psychomotor and numerical. Now, what are the types of personality qualities you would like to have if you want to join the field of architecture? First of all, if you're creative. Creative, I had told you, spatial ability, closure ability, fine motor movements, and you have a mind which is imaginative. And you have a mind which is dynamic. What is dynamic? A dynamic mind is which likes change and is not a fixed mind. It's not a mind with fixed set of ideas. It's not a rigid mind. It's a flexible mind and it likes change and it is ready to adapt and change. Then the third point is wide interest in other fields of knowledge, because architecture is a field which combines with economics, which combines with philosophy, which combines with psychology. I know if you have to make a hospital, or if you have to make an old home, or you have to make a baby center, or you have to make a daycare center for small children and babies, you would need to know the psychology of that population for whom you're working. And only when you know the psychology of that population, would you be able to make a center which is effective and beautiful and suited to the needs of the population you are catering to. And there are many other areas. The philosophical bent of mind is extremely important also. Mrs. Dr. Chakradeo has given you so many good insights into the field of architecture, and she has said so many other things which I totally agree with her. So you need to be restless, because a creative mind is never stagnant and a creative mind is constantly moving. So a restless and likes individuality. So architecture doesn't believe in copying the art of others. Architecture believes in going ahead. Of course, some copying does take place because there's mass production. If a particular type of furniture is there in the market, there would be a mass production and many people would use it, but that's not what I mean. Individuality is where you would have a high sense of degree of independence and you would feel that I must do something different. And that's where creativity lies. Creativity is actually extending the domain of knowledge. If the domain of knowledge remains fixed, the field of that particular field never grows. So fields which are growing very fastly and they are extending their domains of knowledge are the creative fields. Then you must be ambitious because you need to do something, you need to be passionate about what you're doing, and definitely you need to be a hard worker because architecture is no cakewalk. You might feel it's fun. There's passion, there's fun, there's enthusiasm. There's not a moment of boredom. There's a lot of excitement, but it's hard work nevertheless. Next slide, please. Sujata ma'am. And the benefits of being an architect is you'll have a lot of creative satisfaction. We have discussed these points before. And the monuments outlive you. Isn't that a fantastic thing? You create something beautiful. So Taj Mahal was created, I don't know how many years ago. It still stands tall. The people who built it have died. The people who lived in it have died. The people who cherished it have died. But the monument remains standing tall for several years. And when people pass by, they will always remember you because the monuments outlive you. And there's a lot of pride and respect for an architect. So therefore, I put that title as I am an architect. There's a lot of pride there when I say, hello, I'm an architect. And somebody shakes your hand. And if you're a woman, you'll be equally proud of yourself. A chance of meeting great people, because you'll be doing homes for the rich, you'll be doing homes for the poor, you'll be doing homes for the middle class, you'll meet a cross section of the population, and you'll have a great chance to meet great people in this profession. There are several good names which I can think of in the field of architecture in India as well as abroad. Then social contribution. You make definitely a great social contribution when you become an architect, and you all are great problem solvers. As Dr. Ujjwala said, that divergent thinking leads to problem solving. If there is a problem, you cannot solve it with the traditional mindset. So you will diverge your thinking in various directions to solve that problem, and you have to solve that problem. You cannot just leave it there. Here is a problem, so you'll scratch your head, you'll sleep over it, you'll spend sleepless nights, and you'll solve the problem. And therefore you get into the habit of, so it's a great, when you do the course of architecture, it's a great teacher of how to solve problems. Next slide. I think I've at the end. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So according to me, it's a great profession. It's a great career. If you have it in you, go for it. Thank you.
Very well said, ma'am.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam, for your informative presentation and the encouraging words. Now I will request Dr. Sampada Peshwe to share her presentation on Inside the Exciting World of Architectural Studies.
Thank you, Sujata. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes. Please share your contents.
Yes, I will. Yes, Sujata. Are you able to see the presentation?
No, I am not able to see your presentation.
I think it could be a connectivity issue. Let's wait.
Yes, now it is there. Yes, now it is there.
Okay. Is it there? Okay, can I start?
Okay, yeah, Sampada.
Wishing everyone a very good afternoon to our eminent speakers today, and to all of the participants who are here today to know more about architecture as a career option. And thank you for coming down here. And let's all, just like Chakrata ma'am said, let's have a really nice time for this 1 hour and learn more about how architecture is. So I have been given this very difficult task of trying to talk about architecture education in such a less time, because it's a huge world out there, and it's a very exciting world. And people who come in, just like Chakrata ma'am said, that this is one of the professions which allows you to dream. So I would say that yes, it gives you wings, but it also, gives you roots. So you end up becoming a person who is creative, who can dream, but who also learns how to, like root this into reality. So I'll just take you very quickly through what architecture education encompasses. Now in architecture, some of the learns inside the classroom, but much of the learning happens outside of the traditional classroom, just like Chakrada ma'am has mentioned. It's a world of hands-on and experiential learning. You are sensitized to art and to design and to creativity. Yet on the other hand, you are also taught about the latest technology at the same time through very unconventional means. So I would say that learning architecture is a very, very holistic way of learning. And students we have seen who come into first year, and then when they pass out in the final year, they are completely changed because of the way that architecture education is structured in such an interesting way. So the traditional classroom teaching, of course, is there because for certain subjects you need to have such a setting, but it is always supplemented by outdoor learning. So you would have, outdoor sketching, and you would have, like many times we also have classes that are undertaken, outside, like in the courtyard or in some other places. Then students are taught photography, because it's a very, very important part of being an architect. You have to be able to look at things through that lens. So mostly you will see architects are also good photographers. Creative working is there inside the classroom, and you would see that it almost every time spills over outside. So if you go into any architecture college, you will see that typically you will have students working in the corridors, they are like working in the courtyards. So any space that you get, you will see them working in groups. Group work is a big thing in architecture education. So because an architect has to work in a group, he has to coordinate, he or she has to coordinate with a lot of other people, professionals. So architecture education, in architecture education, group work plays a very, very important role. And that is how students are groomed to be, like an excellent team member. Then we over and above the, like traditional technical, guest lectures and workshops conducted, we also try to groom the students in these kind of, allied arts, because as an architect, an architecture student and an architect eventually has to be very sensitive to all of the allied arts. So dance, music, toy making. So we have all of these other kinds of exposures that we give to the students to sort of develop that sensitivity in them. Because that sensitivity eventually comes back into architecture, and an architecture student who is given exposure of these, like different kinds of arts ends up becoming a better designer. Like for example, we've had, like theater workshops. Now somebody might say that what does theater have to do with architecture? But yes, it does, because theater is about space, architecture is about space. So we always enrich the students with all of these kind of, allied sort of arts. Most of the architecture schools will have these kind of clubs. In our college, we have, like for example, sketching club, we have a photography club, we have a music club, we have a movie club. So these kind of clubs keep the creativity in the student alive, because times they may get kind of lost in, in the world of submissions, but these clubs keep their creativity alive. And students really respond very, very well to these, and they actually contribute a lot to their education. Now, over and above the art part and the creative part, the technology part also has to be really, really reinforced, because an architect has to be a combination of a creative person and also a person who is technically very sound. So we have these extensive construction site visits, and the faculty, everywhere, all the faculties make, good efforts to kind of identify sites which have the, like latest technology being like utilized there. And many times it is not easy to get permissions, but the faculty members, they, try their best to get their permissions, so that the students are always kept up to the mark as to, what is the latest happening in the field of architecture. They are trained by the best professionals, so that when they pass out after their degree, they can work in the field and they would have up-to-date knowledge of all the technicalities that are there in the field. we keep on organizing guest lectures and also national and international conferences. So this is an international conference we had in 2018, and the kind of exposure the students got just because of like hearing their lectures and also interacting personally with these people. We had 14 speakers from outside of India, and so that really it makes them grow. All of the students said, "Ma'am, एक ही conference से हम इतना grow हुए, हमको लग रहा है कि like we've become a new kind of person." So these are the trigger points for the students, and they really learn a lot from these kind of like unconventional learning things. Then interaction with eminent architects. So if it's a guest lecture, it's always one-sided, but we have a lot of these interactions so that the students can get feedback. They get their suggestions from these eminent architect and other professionals. So that also greatly contributes into their growth. We also have a lot of tie-ups with industries. So this is a tie-up we have with Spacewood, because industry has a certain way of working, and when students understand how the industry works, they are better equipped to handle their work and become better professionals when they pass out with their degree. Now, all of these things, so knowledge through books is one thing, and actually doing it. So these, so our students, they actually take the bricks in their hands, they mix the mortar, and they actually construct everything. So that makes them more sensitive. So like I said, it's always a contrast. On one hand, they have to learn constantly about all of the latest technology, and on the other hand, they have to be very grounded, and they have to learn everything by experiencing it. So this is a part of experiential learning that we have in architecture studies. Lots of exchange studios are held with colleges in India, with colleges abroad, and that also contributes a lot because there is a constant exchange of ideas. The more ideas are exchanged, the more learning happens. So this was an exchange studio that we had with Huddersfield faculty and students. And yes, learning of softwares is a very important component. So as the students come into first and second year, they will do more of handwork, but then from second year onwards, they will have to start becoming experts in softwares. So this is also a very important point of making them technically very sound. Now, libraries are great resources. You will very rarely find an architecture student studying from a book for an examination. But if it's a design submission or a construction submission, you will find heaps of books around because they will have to refer to all of these books for their projects. So library becomes very important in these times. And also architecture colleges have these kind of material museums and labs where all of the latest equipment is there for the students to study, so that before they go out in the field, they are very well aware of all of these latest things available in the market. Now, architecture is one of the very rare professions where the students actually get, they interact with the society. They try to understand the society because architecture is finally for the society. So architecture colleges usually have such initiatives which encourage and which give a chance to the faculty as well as the students to interact with the society. So for example, our college has a documentation cell for heritage conservation. We have a design cell. We have a research and publication cell. We also do IPR. So all of these things bring us closer to the society, which is very important and which is one of the rare points of architecture as a profession. And then we have study tours. All of the colleges have study tours, and they are very important part of learning. So tours are taken abroad, tours are taken in India, but these tours are never just sightseeing tours. Their tours are taken with a certain objective, and the faculty really think on what they want the students to learn, and then on that basis they are like the site is decided, and it's a wonderful opportunity for the students. So for example, we have taken our students to places like Bangkok, Bhutan, Dubai, Nepal, and many other countries. And India is a complete treasure of wonderful and beautiful architecture, right from prehistoric architecture to contemporary architecture. So there is no dearth of places to take students there for a site visit. So we have taken them to many places over the last so many years. So Hyderabad, Bhopal, there is Bhimbedka, which are prehistoric caves. There are cave paintings there. We have Auroville, we have Dharamsala, and lots of other places. But study tours are not only taken to places where there is glamorous architecture. architecture education is a very one of the objectives is to document our traditional architecture, which is, you know, like very soon it is getting lost out there. Many of the beautiful buildings are being torn down, either, you know, like because they are old or to make way for some more other commercial venture. So architecture schools are very good in documenting these kind of buildings. So we have documented Bharaswada village, we have documented Masala village, so that all of our traditional knowledge can be, you know, documented and kept alive in our documentation. This is the Markanna temple complex at Gadchiroli, and sometimes these kind of documentations give very surprising results, because when we documented the Markanna temple complex, we found that the axis of the temple shown in the Archaeological Survey of India map was slightly wrong by a few degrees, and our team of faculty and students were able to give them a corrected map, and it was a very fulfilling moment for us that our you know, work was actually acknowledged by them. So documentation is very important, not only for the architecture school and the students, but for the society also. This is an example of the documentation of temples done of Mahabaleshwar, and many of these structures have never been documented before. So also these actually documentations become very precious, and we also are quite happy to share it with the concerned people. This is one more documentation done of Chanderi village, and at times people don't have the documentation themselves, so that these drawings become like, you know, like referring things for them. So that becomes very important. Many times these documentations are then, you know, they find their ways and they are converted into these kind of books, which then become great references for other people. So we have, you know, Anubhuti on the architecture of Bhutan, we have on the architecture of Harsil Valley, on the architecture of Chanderi. So these books become very like important as references for other students. Now this is a very peculiar thing, that it's a kind of fun thing, that so if among you there are some people who have, you know, family members or friends who are architects, you would know that they love working in the night. All of us architects love to work in the night, and so especially on these tours and all, you will find all of the students are, you know, like working late into the night. Not only students, all of us teachers are also with there. So all of us, you know, like we work throughout the night. Because we have to do this in a like very limited time, and we all enjoy, we have fun, we sing songs, and also we work on the side. Now when this kind of work is going on in our college, when it does, if it's a, you know, local site, it's actually good that we have our hostel in our campus, because then girls never face a problem, because then, you know, like they have the hostel to go to. But it's always a very fun time to work in the night, so to you know, like to get the work done in a crunch time. Now architecture education studies is a very colorful kind of you know, atmosphere. As you can see, these are the modules made by first years. I'll just take you quickly through some work of the first years majorly, so we teach them everything from how to hold a pencil, how to cut something, how to use a cutter, how to use a scale, and then and they are such incredibly talented you know, kids who come in, and we always wonder that, you know, that till now where was all of this talent? So every year they keep on creating these masterpieces every year. These are the kind of sheets that they make in the first year. This is actually first year work, very unbelievable. And then slowly their you know, like design and their colorful models take shape, and then they become, you know, a piece of architecture like this beautiful house. All of this first year work, so you can imagine that how much of, you know, talent come in with, and then with you know, guidance from the faculty and the teachers, they create these beautiful masterpieces, which also surprises us teachers at times. And just like Chakrata ma'am said, that, you know, the creativity, because it is nurtured, because it is nourished, because so the kids actually find their own individual, you know, creativity and their talent in here. And so this journey, it goes, and then eventually when the students, you know, they pass out, this is the, you know, work of a final year student. So all of the handwork that is taught to them, all of the creative side, all of the arts and all of the technology, they all find their application in the final year thesis project that the students have to do, which they do on the you know, on the computer through software. But this is the beautiful end result of all of that goes on in the 5 years. I may be permitted to just, you know, show a few slides about our college. So here I kind of end, you know, my talk about architecture education and the studies. And believe me, there is so much more that I can share, and I hope that I get a chance sometime again. And there's a lot more that I would like to share with all of you. But for today, this is all, this is where I would like to stop. And just very quickly taking you through our college. We are located in the LED campus on Seminary Hills. It's a beautiful 26-acre lush green campus, where we have a hostel also, which is actually very convenient for the girls because it's a very safe and secure and a monitored hostel. And this is a beautiful college premises with a central courtyard, lots of greenery, and very, very creatively done spaces. As you can see, murals and everything. It's full, all walls are full with murals done by the students. And we offer a BArch course, which has an intake of 120, and we also have 2 master's courses, MArch courses, where the intake is 20 each for each course, and we are approved by the Council of Architecture, New Delhi, the Government of Maharashtra, and RTM Nagpur University as well. And not just we don't stop at like BArch and MArch, but we also have a very, very well functioning center of research for PhD, where already a lot of people have received their degrees, and we still have 20 students. It's a full, and we have a waiting list for our PhD also. So we take students from their BArch to MArch to their PhD till the end. So this is where I think I might have probably exceeded my time. So let me just stop here, and thank you so much for your patience and for listening. But I enjoyed sharing all the work with you. And for any queries, please go to our website. It has all details there, and you can get the contact details there also. Thank you, Sujata. I'm done now. You can now move on to the next presenter.
Please unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. I would thank you, Sampada, for an interesting presentation. Now I would like to request Dr. Nita Lambe to give information about the details of NATA and JEE architecture.
Okay. Thank you, Sujata. Now shall I share my screen?
Yes, you share your screen.
Okay. Can you see the screen now? Hello, Sujata?
Yes.
Shall I start?
Please.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, you can start.
Thank you, Sujata. Today is World Environment Day, and we are talking about architecture. What a coincidence! Because one of the definition of architecture is designing of built environment. And we are talking about environment here. We are talking about taking architecture as career option. Good afternoon, everybody. As said by Chakravarti Madam, architecture is a multidisciplinary field. It is a creative field. At the same time, it is a scientific field. So your aptitude is tested before, or it is judged before taking the admission. As rightly said by Rita Madam, aptitude is required in terms of spatial ability, in terms of closure ability, in terms of psychomotor ability, and in terms of numerical ability. And so this aptitude, it is judged before taking admission to this 5-year degree course, which is known as Bachelor of Architecture, BArch. There are basically 2 entrance examinations to take admission into BArch course. One is National Aptitude Test in Architecture, which is known as NATA. And second is JEE mains, that is paper 2. Now, let me explain you regarding first NATA, that is National Aptitude Test in Architecture. It is conducted by Council of Architecture, which is known as COA, which is an apex body which regulates architecture education as well as architecture profession, and which will give you a registration number after your graduation. There are 2 tests conducted by Council of Architecture, and both tests will be in English medium. So I am giving you basic information regarding NATA as an aptitude test to appear to take admission in BArch course. Now, if you see, apart from NATA, there are certain eligibility criteria for candidates. As said by the Council of Architecture in its brochure, the candidates who have passed 10+2 level examination with at least 50% aggregate marks in physics, chemistry, and mathematics, that means PCM group, you will have to have 50% marks in PCM group and also at least 50% marks in aggregate of the 10+2 level examination. That means the 12th level, or pass 10+3 diploma examination with mathematics as compulsory subject with at least 50% marks in aggregate. That means in 12th you should have 50% marks as aggregate and even the 50% aggregate marks in PCM group. But the relaxation is given to SC, ST, OBC, NCL and PWD category of 5%. That means in that case it will be of 45%. For year 2020, two dates are declared by Council and NATA regarding the NATA examination. The first NATA test, it will be conducted on 1st of August 2020 and the second NATA test will be conducted on 29th August 2020. But I request all parents and candidates to please visit NATA website for any update regarding the NATA test. So you should regularly check that NATA website, which is www.nata.in, and they are continuously updating information regarding NATA. So if there are any changes regarding the timings or the slots or even the dates and even the format, so that will be updated through notification on that NATA website. So I request all parents and students to please check it regularly. Now the candidates, they can register themselves either for the first test or for the second test. That means you can take one test or you can take both the tests. If you are taking both the tests, then again the separate scorecard will be issued for each of the tests. But the second scorecard, the second test scorecard will have again the score of the first test, and also the best marks secured in either of the tests will be considered as the valid score for admission to BR course. NATA registration, it is open and you can go and check on the NATA website. So it says it is open, so you can go and register for the upcoming NATA test. So as mentioned, it is an aptitude test. So the NATA basically it makes an assessment of the drawing, observation skills, then the visualization and imagination skills of the candidate or the students. At the same time, it assesses the sense of proportion, aesthetic sensitivity, along with the imagination skills through its first part, that is the drawing part. But at the same time, your problem solving skills and the critical thinking skills will be again judged through the PCM group, that is physics, chemistry, mathematics and general aptitude test. So as I mentioned, this exam pattern, it is comprises of two parts. So the NATA test, it is having two parts. That is the part A, it is paper based, drawing based examination, and the part B, it will be online examination, which consists of the questions from the PCM, that is physics, chemistry and mathematics group, and the general aptitude. Those will be the MCQs, that is multiple choice questions. The time duration for the NATA test will be 3 hours 15 minutes, in which the 3 hours will be totally for the test and 15 minutes break will be there in the two parts of the examination. The total marks will be 200 marks. If you go into details of this part A, that is the drawing based examination, so you will get A4 size paper and you have to solve 3 questions on that A4 size paper. The 3 questions will be, the 2 questions will be of 35 marks and the third question will be of the 55 marks. The first 135 minutes of your entire duration of examination will be for your drawing, and then the 15 minutes break will be there, and then your online examination will start. And the total marks for this drawing paper will be of 125 marks. The second part, that is the part B, which will consist of your physics, chemistry, mathematics and general aptitude, will be online. So after your drawing examination, the last 45 minutes will be dedicated for the online examination. It will carry 75 marks, in which first there will be 15 questions based on your physics, chemistry and mathematics. Those will be multiple choice questions. Each question will carry 1.5 marks. So the total marks for this PCM group will be 22.5 marks. Then after that there will be 35 questions, again multiple choice questions, in which the general aptitude, architectural aptitude and the logical reasoning will be judged. And again the 1.5 marks will be allotted to 35 questions each, to 35 questions, so making it 52.5 marks. And if you see the tabulation, then as I said, there are two parts. The part A, drawing, there will be 3 questions, 2 of 35 marks, 1 is 55 marks, so the total of this is 125 marks. The part B will carry the MCQs. Total MCQs on PCM 15, which will carry 1.5 marks each, 22.5. Then the 35 questions on your architectural aptitude, general aptitude and logical reasoning. Again 1.5 marks for each question, 52.5. In a way, the part B will carry 75. And so the total marks for your NATA examination will be 125 plus 75. That means the total 200 marks. Now, if you see the syllabus of the part 1, that is drawing, as well as the part 2 PCM, it is in detail, it is given on the NATA website, that is in NATA brochure. You can download that NATA brochure from NATA website, and in detail, entire syllabus it is given. But to just again go through quickly through the part of the drawing part of it, the scale and proportion as said by Sampada madam, and the models and the images shown by her during the first year architecture course. So the basic things regarding the scale and proportion, because the students will be of the 12th standard. So what the basic knowledge they will require to have regarding scale and proportions, then the geometric composition, then the 2D subjects, then 3D subjects, their intersections, then the perspective drawing, then the sketching of the urban scale, then some landscape part, then common day-to-day life objects like furniture, equipments, and again from the memory you had to recreate certain situation or the condition. So the questions will be based on these subjects. Evaluation will be again your drawing skill, how well you have drawn it, or the neatness in the drawing, your understanding regarding the drawing, your visualization, your imagination, your basically the observation skill, what you have observed while drawing that particular situation, then the sense of proportion, perspective, sense of color and composition. So on the basis of these, your drawing part or the part A of your examination will be judged or evaluated. Because being it is a subjective in nature, because it's a drawing and a sense of color and composition and everything, the drawing will be not evaluated by one examiner, but it will be evaluated by more than one examiner, and the marks will be averaged after that. Now, these are, I am just presenting few sample examples of, say, 11th and 12th student, the work of 11th and 12th students. This is one sample example. Imagine that you are standing in the balcony of your 4th floor apartment, looking at a small place of worship surrounded by garden. Draw what you see. That means here again your observation skill, your visualization, your imagination will be judged. So this is just one of the example of the student. Now you can see what the 12th standard student can sketch at this particular stage. Again, this is one birthday party going on or the birthday celebration going on. These are just the sample examples. Here again, the kids, they are enjoying kite flying in neighborhood. So you can see the sense of perspective. Then again, there can be a question, you have to draw some historic monument or the world famous monument. And again, there can be the questions like draw the composition of the lines. If it is mentioned in the exam that you have to color it in monochromatic or in some color scheme or 2 or 3 colors, then accordingly you need to color it. You have to go specifically according to the question, what is it is mentioned in that question. For PCM and general aptitude, the entire syllabus, what should be there in the physics, what will be there in the chemistry, what will be there in the maths, it is entirely given in detail topic wise in that NATA brochure. So you can go through it. But in all, there will be a multiple choice question. As you know, only one option will be correct. You have to tick that correct response, and there will be no negative marking for this online examination. So these are few samples. You can see the 3D figure. And the questions like you show the correct front view of the direction of arrow. So this is all there will be in your general aptitude and the logical reasoning. There can be the questions related to architecture, the general awareness regarding architecture as a profession. That means the names of some architects will be given, their works will be given. You have to identify the name of that particular architect. There will be some historic buildings or the world famous buildings will be given. You have to identify that building. So for that you need to have general aptitude or general awareness regarding architecture as a field. Now, after going through this, there are certain qualifying marks as decided by NATA, so or the Council of Architecture. For part A, that means for the drawing examination, you need to have minimum 32 marks out of 125. That means approximately 25% marks. For part B, you should have 18 marks out of 75 marks, again 25% marks to have the minimum qualification marks. But overall qualifying marks out of 200 only will be declared by Council of Architecture after the examination, after both the attempts, after calculating the difficulty levels and everything and the number of the students appeared for those examinations. So Council will be declared that through their notification on their website. And the NATA score for 2020 shall be only valid for the admission in the coming academic session, that is 2021. Now the merit list for the admissions will be on the basis of your 50% of your 12th aggregate marks and 50% of your NATA marks. So the calculations, the way they are doing the calculations and the way the merit list it is generated, everything it is given on the websites, which is regarding the DT, that is the Director of Technical Education, maharashtra.gov.in. Again, the Maharashtra or the mahacet.org. Again, in NATA, it will be given NATA website, and even the COA's official website, coa.gov.in. The entire calculations regarding the merit list and how they are generating that merit list will be given. So you need to check all these websites regularly before taking admission or before filling the preference forms. Now the second test that you can appear is regarding the is of the JEE main paper 2, which is only for the architecture, wherein the non-zero score is considered. This particular exam, it is of the 3 hours duration. And as you know, the registrations are done and the paper 2 examination will be, or the examination dates are declared by National Testing Agency, that is NTA, and those examinations or the NATA examination or JEE main second paper examination will be conducted from 18th of July to 23rd of July as declared by the NTA. So here in this pattern or in this JEE main second paper, again the paper pattern is somewhat different from the NATA. Herein there are 3 parts, part 1, part 2 and part 3. Part 1, it is only of maths. There is no question for physics and chemistry in JEE main second paper. There will be 25 questions based on only maths, out of which 20 questions will be multiple choice question. You can take any correct answer, and 5 will be numerical without choices given. Then the second part will be of the aptitude test, which will have the 50 questions. All 50 questions will be the multiple choice questions. Then the drawing test, that is the part 3, which will have the 2 questions, that is as the drawing test. And you have entire 3 hours with you to solve this paper. And as you see, this is the tabulation. Each question will carry 4 marks. So mathematics will carry the 125 question into 400. Then again the aptitude test, each question will carry 4 marks. So 50 into 4, 200. Then the drawing, there will be 2 drawing questions. So 50 marks each, so 100. So the total score or the total marks will be 400 marks for JEE architecture paper 2. So here in maths and aptitude test in MCQs, the +4 for the correct response and -1 for the incorrect response. That means, see here there is a negative marking, while in NATA there is no negative marking. But for numerical, because you have to just solve it and give the answer, there won't be any choices given. So only +4 for correct response and no negative marking for numericals in the maths section. So these are again few sample examples from the JEE paper 2. Like imagine yourself inside a train bogie and you are looking outside from the window and the train is taking a turn. So what you will see from your position, that type of questions. Again, some composition of, say, the fruits in a plate, then few objects, they are composed, even the light sketching techniques, shade, shadow, that will be judged through this. Then the composition of basic shapes. These are just the examples of 12th standard students to show you what type of exam it will be. Then the syllabus for maths and aptitude test, it is given on National Testing Agency, that is NTA website, nta.ac.in. So you can go through it. Even the mock tests are available on this website. So you can go through that mock test also. As far as admission, because this is entirely, these are the details about the NATA as the admission test, and then the entrance test, and architecture JEE main paper 2 for architecture as entrance test. For admission process, equivalence score will be calculated for JEE main paper 2. If you have given JEE Main also paper 2 and also NATA, then both the scores, equivalent scores of JEE Main will be calculated. It will be compared with your NATA score. Then whichever is greater is considered for your merit list along with your 12th standard aggregate marks, and then the merit list will be generated. If you have not given JEE Main paper 2, then only on the basis of NATA, the merit list, you will have your place in the merit list. If you have not given NATA but only you have appeared in the JEE Main paper 2, then equivalent score will be calculated and then it will be compared with other students with the NATA score, and then your name will be given in the merit list. So the details of this equivalent scores, how it will be calculated, will be available on these government websites, and the admission process, entire admission process, cap rounds, counseling sessions, everything, the detailed timetable will be available on this website. So you have to go on checking the website. Now, because we have seen what is happening in our college regarding architecture, where we are located. So while taking admission, our college code is AR4214, which is given in the list of the colleges. The college name, it is mentioned as Women's Education Society, Srimati Manorama Bai Mundle College of Architecture, Nagpur. It was previously Department of Architecture of LAD College. So many of you must be knowing our college as LAD College, but in list, the college name is appeared as Women's Education Society, Srimati Manorama Bai Mundle College of Architecture, Nagpur. Our college website, as already mentioned by Sampada, it is smmca.edu.in. So you can go on to our website, you can check on the details of our college, and the college code is AR4214. For any query regarding our admission process or anything regarding the architecture as a profession, admission, you can contact these following contact numbers. So you can save these numbers, and you can even mail us on our mail ID admin.info.ladrch@gmail.com. So as mentioned by Rita Madam, as mentioned by Chakradeva Madam, even as discussed by Sampada, architecture is a very exciting type of profession. It is very satisfying type of profession. It is very divergent in terms of the career prospects. So I can say it's a very noble profession. I am enjoying my profession, and I am welcoming all you who are watching this particular webinar, that this will be a best option for your career. So all the best to you. And now, thank you very much. I am handing over my mic to Sujata. Sujata, thank you.
Thank you, Anita. I believe that all the students will be benefited by your very helpful presentation. In addition to this, I also want to add one thing, that today in one talk, the famous Indian architect B.V. Doshi has said that the architects are Vishwakarmas. So you can think that we can say that architecture is a very noble profession. And now I hand over the platform to Dr. Madhura Rathod for the question and answer session. So please, Madhura, you can take over now.
Yes, thank you, Sujata Madam. With these presentations and a brief outlook about how we are going to have a prospects in architecture as a career, we have got list of queries which are exceeding, but I need to have few questions that can be asked. I think is Rita ma'am online?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes. Yeah, Rita ma'am, there's one query from one of the parents saying how to motivate kids for architecture profession. So I thought this is something where the counseling plays a major role.
No. See, the motivation, if the child has the inclination and the interest and the drawing ability and the special creative ability, then she should be definitely encouraged and guided. So what happens in motivation is, I'll give you an example. Sometimes if a child belongs to a business background or to a professional or to a background where there is no architect she has ever seen in her life, let's look at a girl. So she doesn't know what the profession is all about. So we call something as job shadowing. Job shadowing is, I put a 11th or a 12th standard child. We did this with our own child. I'm talking of my granddaughter. He's my my sister's son's daughter. So she was confused. I'll do this, I'll do that. She's a 9th standard, 10th standard girl now in Dubai. So he took her to London and first put her in the architect's office for a whole day and said, you sit here, watch, get into the different departments, see how they operate, see the customers, see what they do, and have a look. And then next day, he took her to an interior designer's office and put her there and said, now you sit here whole day and take your own feedback. So after both the exposure, she came home and she thought a lot. And then she agreed with her father and said, Papa, you were right, I'll become an architect. Earlier, she was confused and she was not decided. So what happens, job shadowing is a slightly longer duration. We put the child for a week. Supposing somebody wants to promote any other profession like psychology or medicine. So we say, okay, go and sit in the office of a psychologist for maybe 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, 1 week, follow up and see if you like it. And we allow such children. So it's called shadowing. And that really helps. That's one way of encouraging. If a mother wants to encourage her daughter into architecture, just put her into the office of an architect for a week.
Very true, very true. I think that should satisfy the query to the parent who has asked. The next question, I think Chakrata madam, you can take over. This question is from some anonymous parent. They haven't written their name. The question is, what is the future of architecture education post-pandemic?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, I would like to answer this question because in the entire webinar, we did not mention this particular aspect. We all have been in the sort of a lockdown situation for past 2 months or more than 2 months, I would say. And we are skeptical. We just don't know what is going to happen to us and to the entire society and what would be the demands. So the question which has been asked, I'm not really very sure I'll be able to give the precise answer to this question. But yes, the role of an architect, for that matter, role of every professional is going to change. Or by professional, every individual. We have got so many realizations in these past 2 months. We have had the time to look into ourselves. So did we have the time to look into the profession also. What are we doing with the profession? What are we constructing? Do we really need it? And what is the role of an intervention of an architect? These are the questions which are bothering us. Sujata madam just now mentioned about the presentation and in dialogue of the doyen of architecture, that is B.V. Doshi sir, and he talked in the morning to many of us and in the webinar, and he was also talking about the kind of architecture which is required by Indians, who we are, what is Indian architecture, and what we really need to intervene and construct and design. So we need to be more sensitive towards the society. This is something which will happen with the profession. But to answer your question, sir, what I would say that in education, like in any other education also, there's going to be a dramatic change in the way we deal with architecture education. Can I
make a comment here, please?
Yeah, I can make my comment clear that there is going to be a change. First and obvious change is that we are going to have online lectures, that's for sure. As I have announced already, or our college has already announced, from 15th of June, we are starting with the online classes. So the technology related to online working is definitely there. Yet, what are we going to deal in our design projects? How are we going to get connected to the community? How are we going to sensitize our students to understand the pain which the community is facing The problems which the community is facing right now, that is what the major change in our design projects and an approach towards education, architecture education is going to be in the coming years, coming days. For long, I don't know what to answer. What
Can I make a comment here, please?
Yes, sure, please.
Okay, so I was listening to a webinar by Mr. Dev Bhattacharya. He's the group head of the Aditya Birla entire group, and he's based in Bombay, and he's like a family friend. So I was listening to his talk, and he said the infrastructure demands are going to go up. And he said something very interesting. He says, he mentioned some figure of 3 crores or something like that, or maybe more, migrant labor which has gone back to their homes. He says each one of them are now going to demand a separate home for themselves. And the scene might move from the urban areas which are very congested to slightly suburban areas and the rural areas, where the demands for building homes, building roads, building infrastructure is really going to go up. And that's where the architects come. So according to me, whatever may be the form of education, whether you go digital or you go offline, online, but the demand for architecture is definitely not going to go down.
That's a great news. And let's keep our fingers crossed, because infrastructure development is directly related to the development, or it's a sign of the growth and sign of development of the nation. So surely it's going to be helpful for the profession.
May I also add a little bit to this, if it's okay, Madhura?
Sampada can answer
Madhura,
to this question,
me?
Sampada?
Yeah,
Sampada.
I would just like to small thing. Chakradhar ma'am and Rita ma'am have actually given like very interesting angles. There is one more term that is being talked about, which is called as the reverse migration. So we have now migrants coming back to their, like small villages, also because we have realized that yes, a lot of things can be done online. So there is also the great possibility of people from cities moving towards villages. So I feel that there is in a great likelihood a lot of infrastructure development will happen in villages, which is actually a very, very welcome thing, because that has not been taken up so many in these past so many years. So I think that will again give a lot of impetus to architecture and its growth. So just this small point that I wanted to add. Yeah, Madhura, back to you.
There's a small notification which has come that the same presentation, these are for the parents who were not able to join today, and there were quite a lot inquiry about how can they rewatch the same presentation. So we have got a notification from Microsoft Teams saying that this presentation will be available on YouTube as well as on Facebook tomorrow. So we will be probably sharing the link with all our participants and those who have registered with us, so that you can rewatch the same webinar. Okay, we'll shift to next question. Sampada, you can answer to this question that they have asked. Is interior designing and landscape included in architecture course?
Yes, actually very much, because like Chakradhar ma'am has mentioned before, and also Rita ma'am, that architecture is a very, very encompassing field. And as after doing BArch, there are a lot of avenues, out of which landscape is one avenue, and interior designing is also one avenue. And in fact, a lot of these good architects and their firms are doing excellent interior design work. So it is very much a part of architecture, in the scope of architecture, and landscape also. Landscape is in fact a specialization after architecture. So once after doing BArch, you can get your master's degree in landscape architecture, and a lot of good institutes in India and abroad offer masters in landscape architecture. So yes, I would say that very much they are both part of architecture design.
Next question, Sampada, just let it make clear in a statement. They have asked, can an architect join an army?
Maybe
So-
Chakrodaya ma'am might be in a better position to answer this question, I think.
Yes. Of course, I can answer
yeah,
this.
But I do know, ma'am, that people have done IAS after they've done their architecture. I know some people who have done that. About Army, Chakrodaya ma'am can answer.
Yeah, this is a very good question. Then because not as a formality, I'm saying this, but then there are so many options where a architect graduate can perform, because the education hones the versatility in the personality of a person. That's why so many things can be done. Now, as far as Army is concerned, I can answer it because my connections with Army, field of Army is there. And I have gone through that process of understanding how to join Army. For Army as a professional or as an architect, there is a need in the Army because they keep on constructing and structures in the hilly areas, in the very varied terrains, in the climatically diverse situations. And for that, our knowledge of an architect or a requirement of an architect is definitely there. After 5 years, you have to appear for CDS, that is Combined Defense Services examination, something like that, or University Entrance Examination, UE Entrance Examination or Services, something. I'm not getting the exactly UES. And this examinations allows you to, you are shortlisted and then you have to appear for the Viva by Army, and then that is called SSB. And then after SSB, then if you're selected, it's quite tough. It's very tough, of course, to get selected. But if you are interested, we can tune or we can train you while you are learning architecture. For that aspect, one of our students has already joined. I don't remember her name right now. Somebody can add to it. She has already joined Army because that was her passion, and she's enjoying her. And one of the students has joined Air Force as well. So there are precedences, and we can definitely join Army and Air Forces or any Navy as well after this graduation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Next question is for Rita ma'am specifically. They have asked, Rita ma'am, can you please answer my question? If a student having any weak spatial ability, my question to Rita ma'am is, do you recommend him or her to go for architecture?
Yeah, so the question is what? Mixed ability?
If a student is having a very weak spatial ability.
Spatial ability would be the most important ability for an architect. Then you might sort of do something like this, that if you're, so it can happen that somebody is keenly interested, but can fall short on one particular ability. So you might take some coaching on that with a good coach for a month or two, try to improve your spatial ability, train yourself in it, and again reappear for the test. So we do very simple tests. It may take you around half an hour for a test. So, and then test yourself. If it goes up by 20%, 25%, you're in. In spite of coaching, if it doesn't go up, you're out.
Okay, ma'am. There are a few questions which are quite similar, 3 to 4 of them, which are focusing on asking about what are the future prospects after BArch. So anybody among the panel would like to answer to this? Future prospects after BArch, that is Bachelor of Architecture.
Can I?
Yeah, ma'am, please.
When I was talking, I had actually mentioned about it. Their first and very obvious option is that you can straight away jump into profession or be with a renowned architect's firm and try to understand how profession works for 1 or 2 years, and then start your own office, start taking your projects, start talking to clients and serving the clients. That could be one of the ways. However, there could be You can go for post graduation. I think when I was talking, I have given the list of post graduations which can be taken up here. And these post graduations are architecture education, then urban design, then only design, environment, urban planning, conservation, and many others. I had said that if you go to the Council of Architecture's website, you will find the list of postgraduate courses which can be taken up by you. And that's and not only that, Sampada was showing you about the photography, advertisement, filmmaking, all those creative fields require architects and can be used.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Dr. Neeta,
I would maybe like to add
for you.
Madhura, can I just add a little to this question, if it's okay?
Yeah, definitely.
After BArch, either post graduation is there definitely in lots of fields, and also either the student can start their own practice. They can join an office. There is also a lot of scope in corporates, because a lot of companies like Reliance or DSK are also employing students. Godrej. So through campus interviews, many of these corporates also employ students, and also in the government sector for urban planning, urban design, there is also a scope for get employment in the government sector as well. So there is a very wide scope of job opportunities after BArch.
Even can I add one thing? Even after BArch, Madhura, even after BArch, you can do even the MBA. That means you can go for masters in MBA. Then the project management, even you can divert into the other history or the journalism side. Even the architectural journalism is one of the master's course. Even in state government, in central government, there are many organizations like CITO, PWD, CPWD, municipal corporations, HUDCO. Then there are departments of railways. Then departments of the country planning organizations, National Institute of Urban Affairs, Post and Telegraph. There are so many government organizations wherein the architects they are appointed, and you can have the job prospects there in that field apart from private sector.
Yeah, Neeta, next question is something related to the coaching classes for NATA. So parent has asked, is coaching required for NATA? That is one question. And the second question is, other than NATA and JEE, do we have any other way of getting admission to architecture? These are two questions.
Yeah, first I would like to answer the second question. Apart from JEE second paper and NATA, I think there is no other option to enter into the architecture field, because that is the entry level examinations, and you need to have NATA score or you need to have JEE main second paper score to enter into architecture. And regarding the first question, because if, as said by Rita madam and even discussed by Chakradhar madam, if you have that ability or the aptitude of visualization, imagination, if your observation skill is very good, then there is absolutely no coaching required for the first part of NATA, that is the drawing test. As far as the second part of NATA, because it is based on the PCM group, the PCM syllabus, it is entirely based on 11th and 12th standard syllabus. So as they have joined or they have appeared for their 12th standard, so again there is no need to have separate coaching for the PCM group. And as far as general aptitude on architecture it is concerned, there are very basic questions which they must have covered in their history or in a social science studies till 10th regarding the basic textural quality of the material, basic materials, then the monuments as mentioned by Rita madam, 7 wonders of the world. So these are very famous world known or the famous monuments one can easily identify. So as such, no special training is required, but yes, you required orientation for this particular examination, because it is a time-bound examination. You need to show your skill. So if you are not equipped with that skill, then as said by Rita madam, you need to just have the practice of certain memory drawing, or and even if you have given the elementary and intermediate type of the examination during your school time, then absolutely there is no need to have the coaching. But yes, orientation is required for the field. Madhura, your mic is on mute mode. Madhura.
Sorry. Yeah. Next question is probably for Chakradev madam and Rita ma'am. It's asked, why is it said that architecture is difficult for women as compared to men by my friends and family members? We need to answer this.
Rita madam will answer first.
No, what is the question? I didn't get it. Say it again, please.
The question is, why is it said by my family members and friends that architecture is difficult for women as compared to men?
It's difficult for girls.
Yeah.
Is that the statement?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
actually, I think what happens, parents who are extremely protective about their darling daughters don't want them to go out into the field, because you have to go into open spaces, you have to go into the field, you have to interact with men, and the construction site is full of men and it's a dirty place because there's mud and mortar and bricks and everything. So it's not a clean office room. It's not an air conditioned office room like a software engineer would face. So it's a field job. Of course, if you're only into designing, then you can sit in your drawing room or drawing board in your office and just design. But if you want to be part of the entire project from designing to execution, then you definitely need to go out and interact with a whole lot of team which consists chiefly of men. So I think mothers, modern mothers, should not be asking this question, because women are going into all sorts of adventure activities. Women are going into the army, women are flying planes, women are into combat also. So what is the field of an architect? She's safe and sound. You should allow her. But mothers and fathers are generally protective. I think that is where the perception comes of the career, that it's tough for girls. It's not tough for girls at all. Nothing is tough for the girls. That's my take.
Chakradev ma'am wants to add something to this?
I would say that this question has been wonderfully answered by Rita madam. So there's hardly anything that I can add. I can only say initially in olden days, it was the field of all men field, and now women are all over. We can very easily take it up, or rather I would say women are more creative. I would say this is one of the best fields for women, because as I said when I was talking about initially, that this is the profession where you can plan your entire life. You can plan when to have your babies also, and you can take a break, be at home and rejoin the entire, rejoin the profession whenever you want. Whenever you feel you are not comfortable outside in the field, you can stay home and then work from home, or otherwise when you are quite comfortable, go out, move out and be in the field and be competitive. I think it's a very flexible field, so very rightly answered. I think I'm done.
Neeta. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Neeta, this is another one question which is quite necessary to be answered. Is there any age limit for giving NATA? Because I have done my civil engineering and now I am interested to come into architecture.
I think in that brochure there is no such regarding age limitation. There is no remark as such in the NATA brochure given by Council of Architecture. But I think certainly we can take admission after doing graduation, because you can enroll for NATA and then you can appear for this JEE mains, I suppose, because I will have to check first. But I know people who have done architecture after doing civil engineering or after doing any other graduation and then entering into the field of architecture profession. So yes, definitely you can join architecture after doing some graduation or engineering or some other graduation.
Okay, I think this is the last question where the student is asking, can we make a career in set designing after architecture as I am more towards theatre?
Shall I answer this question?
Yeah, Nita.
Yeah. Yes, you can definitely enter into set designing. One of my thesis students, she is working presently on her thesis, and she has taken Film Institute as her thesis project, and she will join set designing after doing her graduation in architecture. So yes, definitely you will get different type of the insight or the perspective if you have architecture as a degree while designing sets for the television or the film industry. And many architects or the architectural firms in Mumbai or even in the south side, they are into set designing. So definitely even the internship or the training, 6 months or the 1 year training can be done in such type of institutions or the firms or the corporate firms who are into set designing. So definitely you can have your career after architecture in set designing.
Nita, followed by the answer that you had given for future prospects in architecture after doing BR, you had mentioned about government job that they can go for. So there's a question here. Is there any separate examination that we have to give for government job after BR?
There are certain posts for architects like in CPWD, in PWD, wherein you need to give MPSC and UPSC. So the architects, they can appear for those examination and then they can enter into the government fields or the government organizations. And even I suppose after doing MArch in urban planning, because in many government organizations, they require master's degree, like masters in urban planning. So after that, you can enter into government organization.
Okay, thank you, Nita. I think this is the last question that we are picking up. And this is probably for Chakradev madam. The question is, how far are practical trainings fruitful for students of architecture, and how about doing this practical training every year or after every semester?
Practical training is all about going into the field, being with an architect, as shadow practice was mentioned by shadow professions or practice was mentioned by Marita madam. You have to actually be in an architect's office in the firm and understand the working of a firm. That's why the practical training is there, and it's a connect between education and profession. And this is where we also learn from profession when students come back after training. So training is definitely mandatory must, and students should go to training. Yeah, the another idea of whether it should be for 6 months or for 1 year or whether it should be after every year is what people have. We have different opinions, and these opinions are sorted out, worked out by experts from Council of Architecture. And as per the directives from Council of Architecture, we have to go ahead. When I studied architecture, at that time, there were no direct strict rules as to have 6 months training. So, but it was told to us by our teachers that we have to be in an architect's firm. So after the college hours, every day, after 5 o'clock or from 5 to 7 or 5 to 8, we used to be in an architect's office and try to understand, and then go home and do the homework and then go back to the college. So being in the architect's office, understanding the way of profession is mandatory. How to do it, when to do it will be according to the directives from the Council of Architecture.
With that, yeah. With that, there's a couple of questions which where the person has asked about. Please ask my question online, ma'am. Okay, so last 2 questions that we are taking. First is, is there any change in NATA exam this year compared to earlier? Neeta?
Yes, as far as the brochure which is uploaded on the NATA website, there won't be any change as such in the exam pattern because they have not mentioned it anywhere that there will be change, because the latest brochure it is uploaded in somewhat 16th of I suppose March, or in the month of March. But yes, you need to keep updating, or you need to keep checking that website regarding the updated information regarding the dates of NATA. Because they have declared the NATA dates, but okay, there may be the changes in the time slot, there may be the changes in the registration details or the extension or the change in the center. So now, because even the JEE second paper, you know, they have again opened those forms or the registration forms to change the center names. So because of this pandemic effect, there may be again the forms available to change the center for the NATA. So you need to again go on checking the NATA website. But as far as my knowledge is concerned, there won't be major change in the exam pattern. The exam pattern will remain like of the previous year.
Okay, thank you, Neeta. Chakrudha ma'am, last question for you, and quite interesting. The student has inquired that after completing my BR, how far is it risky to start my own firm?
So this is a student who is already an architect. So this question can be taken up later on. However, I'm going to answer it now. You can jump into the profession if you really are confident. And I have seen my students doing that. They just start their own office because they are quite confident about what they are learned. But if you're not confident, you have to understand what kind of structure you want to design. Look for an architect who does the similar work, go to his or her office and learn that. And then once you only at the moment you feel you are confident to take up the projects, you can jump into the project field. Apart from design, there are other issues also actually, but we will discuss it we can have another webinar for that.
Yeah, and the last question is PG mandatory? Again, last, and this is actual last. Is PG mandatory for joining academic as a profession?
No. No.
Okay. Yes, with that, Sujata ma'am, we have done with question and answer session. You can take over, Sujata ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Madhura. I hope this session must have cleared many doubts of the student as well as the parents. Before we come to a concluding session, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all those who have helped in organizing this webinar. I thank all the honorable members of our management, Women's Education Society, for their continuous and strong support. Our director and the secretary of Women's Education Society, Dr. Shamala Nair Madam, who has always been a great support to us. Thank you, Madam. I would like to thank Ms. Rita Agrawal Madam, who has taken a valuable time from her busy schedule to share her views with us. I would like to thank our principal Madam Dr. Ujwala Chakradev for her guidance and support in organizing this program. I would like to thank MasterSoft for technical support in organizing this webinar. I would also like to thank press for giving coverage in local newspaper. I would also like to thank all my friends and colleagues, especially Vaijanti and Sneha, who helped me a lot in organizing this webinar. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Again, I would like to make one announcement that the link of this webinar will be available on the YouTube and the Facebook tomorrow, and we will also mail this link to others who have registered for this webinar. Thank you so much.